We got the Soweto derby over the weekend. Paris, the home side against Kaizer Chiefs, and they got, it depends how you see it or how you want to narrate it, controversial penalty at the end via Mfukeng, and they won that derby 1-0, secured 3 points to move closer to Sundowns, who themselves won handsomely on Sunday. Jay, how did you see the Soweto derby, and what did you make of each team's display?
First of all, that was not a penalty. And initially I thought it was a penalty because what I interpreted was, well, Blom tried to pull him back, and Mofokeng is an honest player. He stayed on his feet, but that does not mean that's not a foul, and advantage happened and he didn't score, then it's a penalty. But upon further review and further reading into the laws, whichever place you stand on, whether you think that it was not a foul to begin with, of course, if you think it was not a foul, it's not a penalty. If you think what I thought initially, what the rules do further state is that the ref will play an advantage, but if an advantage doesn't materialize, he can pull it back for a free kick or for a penalty in this case. But if a shot is taken and it had a advantage did materialize, which is what happened here, then he can't. Or if you are of the opinion that no, the decision was based on the keeper, I do agree that Vuma fouled Mofokeng, but I think the ball was gone at that point. Although hearing from a keeper, as after that game, what was said, and which is probably the strongest argument for it being a penalty, is that if a keeper makes contact with a player in the box with their feet, that's always a penalty. If it'd gone with his hands and the ball was gone, then that's definitely not. But then now it's a gray area in terms of, well, it's just purely that he made contact with his feet. But then the counter argument is that the ball was gone. So is it really a foul?
Guys, what counter argument? Anywhere else in the pitch, if you try to go for the ball and the ball is not there, and you get the man, it's a foul. Penalty. Like, why are there technical things here? Vuma fouled Mfukeng. Penalty.
The ball was out of play. But I don't think it's a penalty.
But Vuma made contact with Rele. It doesn't matter where the ball is, Jay. If you kick someone intending to go for the ball and you arrive late,
that's the other thing. I don't think he kicked him. Like I think they had a clash. I think Rele was stretching for the ball and he got to the ball and the ball was gone. And
that sounds like a late tackle.
They clattered into each other.
That sounds like a late tackle.
They clattered into each other.
The person who got to the ball first to shoot was Rele, which means he won the ball. If everybody was a 50-50 and you want to use the language of clattered into each other, the one who was late, who didn't get the ball at all, is the keeper.
Yeah, I don't think that was a penalty. Chuck thinks it was a penalty. What do you guys think? Tell us what you think. Like, tell us in the comments. But in terms of the game, Chuck, I thought it was a cagey affair. It was more akin to the derbies we've seen. Maybe we were spoiled last year when we got that 3-2. And all the goals and all the fun. And like it's been almost a year. Like in March, it would be a year since we last saw the Soweto derby. And so the build-up was so great, right? And then the game itself was disappointing. I thought there was a lot more emotion and adrenaline than there was calm heads and actually playing to whatever plans either one of these sides had. And you see that especially on the Pirates side, because I thought Pirates were absolutely going to wipe the floor with Kaizer Chiefs based on how Pirates have played this season and how Kaizer Chiefs have played, being so open at the back and conceding so many goals. But then what you see from Orlando Pirates, number one, they could not play out from the back, and I could not understand their formation when they were trying to play out from the back, because it was a 2-1 build-up. It was like the two center backs and then Makaula, or it was a 3-1 where Makaula joined them, and then you had Umbata be the only person in midfield. And then when you look at Kaizer Chiefs, there are 3 players in front and there are 2 behind. So you were never getting to the guy in the middle, and Kaizer Chiefs were not pressing. So yeah, I think a Tito needed to pull further backwards, and at times you saw him doing that to receive the ball, because there was no fluidity at all when Pirates were trying to play it from the back. And then what Pirates also tried to do, which I understand, is they tried to play long balls behind the high line, because we've seen it be successful. So we saw it live when Sundowns were playing Kaizer Chiefs, and most of the goals the Chiefs have scored is because those defenders have to turn and run, and players are making runs behind them. But that was not very successful either, you know. And so Pirates, Chiefs did well in terms of being solid and compact, not allowing Pirates to build through the middle, which is what Pirates love to do. And when Pirates did try to go to the wide areas, what you found with Kaizer Chiefs in their defensive setup On the one side, you had Uplom, who was not attacking at all. So he was stationed at that right back position, keeping an eye on Rele. And when Rele did come inside, which is where he does most of his damage in that in that half space, you had Uox, who was more leaning towards that side, and they were handling Orele together. And then on the other side, the Clock absolutely had Nkota for lunch. He had him in his back pocket, and the young man could not quite crack the Clock challenge.
Where is Saleng?
And that's the question. Because where is Saleng? Because the thing about Saleng, Chuck, right, he's a big game player.
For sure.
You know, in the same way that, who am I thinking about? The Argentine?
Di Maria.
Like, if you ask me who's the better player between Di Maria and Messi, 100 times, it's Messi, right? But in a final, the player who has been the biggest reason for why Argentina from under 20 all the way to like a World Cup final have been successful, he tends to be the man of the match in those moments. There are guys who are just big match players. DJ Drogba, for example, you look at his goal record and you compare it to his goal record in finals, chalk and cheese, right? When the lights are brightest, there are guys who just put up their hands and like they just thrive in that environment and in that cauldron. And Saleng is that guy. We've seen him against Sundowns in cup competitions. We've seen him in the derby itself, as I'm saying, as recently as the one that we saw prior to this one. He scored a brace and was the game winner for Orlando Pirates, right? And where is he? Like, especially in the position where you've got a 20-year-old. Yes, he's been good, right? But he's still 20 years old, and this is still his first season. And when you're seeing him struggle, you know what would be great? To turn to the bench and to have a veteran there who's done it before at this level and say, okay, the young man, maybe this is not the game for him. Let's put him in cotton wool. There, Saleng, you go and do le otumengayo. But he's not there. So that was that. I don't know what's happening with Saleng, and that's the question. That's the question we keep needing to answer, right? And because I do think Chuck, he would have been a welcome addition. The other things on the Orlando Pirates side, Umabasa missed chances that you don't associate with him missing.
Yeah.
That was disappointing. And then when he was replaced by Makhopa was the man for that game, because in the link up, that's exactly what Orlando Pirates needed in order to play. And in the second half, Orlando Pirates did play a little more, sending Hoto further forward, whether he was showing up on the left or he's showing up on the right hand side. Like, yeah, in the dying stages, that man is still running like at 100%, and he almost made something happen, right? And then leading up to the penalty, we debate whether it was a penalty or not, but the ball to Rele, the touch from Rele, absolutely brilliant. Ultimately, I think what proved to be a winning formula for Orlando Pirates is that they have better players than the Kaizer Chiefs.
I think that's true, but unfortunately on the day, they didn't quite show that. That's what I thought as well going into the game, that Pirates have the better midfield. Like, I barely saw Ox and Zwan in terms of controlling the game. They got the ball and Chiefs lost so much of possession. You're like, this midfield is inferior. But
Chiefs were poor in possession. Absolutely poor in possession.
They were. They're right. They were. And when Pirates got the ball, then they rushed their passes as well. So it was a game that lacked quality, to be honest with you, in terms of passing. And in a scrappy game like that, someone like Maketlin Makaula will shine, because there's so much to win, so much to fight for, and he won a lot of those balls, especially in the first half. And I think had a good game overall. Bata was a bit missing in terms of in the midfield, because I think if you have both of them working and operating very well, we could win, except for the fact that our forward line wasn't quite firing. Except for that one turn on the touchline that Nkota beat the clock on. As you said, it was hard going on the entire game with that. And I think someone like Saleng, here's the thing about Saleng, along with what we praised Tito for. He's someone who takes the onus on himself, because I'm going to beat the man, and then I'm going to score, or I'm going to cross. I'm going to make things happen. I'm not going to be a passenger in the game. I want to be a big part player in this game, and that's what he brings to the game. And I think if you got threats on either side, because as you said, when they would double up on Mfukeng, that was managed on the one side, and then they can manage Unkota because it's not really in the best of form on the other side. Then the responsibility is really on Tito and Mabasa to do something. And so, as we said, passing was sloppy. So with Saleng, you don't need to pass him. He'll fight. He'll press to win the ball, and then he'll hurt the opposition. But generally speaking, Jay, the long balls that you speak of, I got tired of them. Like after ball number 3, it was like it needs incredible accuracy, because this pass number 1. On a goal kick, everyone is settled in their defensive structure, so your pass has to be very accurate. And it wasn't many other times. Well, either would go all the way out to a throw-in, or the ball would be won by Chiefs, and you're like, that's a waste. Because when we have the ball, and we played quite well, we can pull them out of possession, but we never quite did that. Shout out to Usipo China in the first 2 minutes, denying Upule Modi.
I can't believe that save, eh?
Yeah,
because that man was sprawled on the floor, and then it feels like it was like Goku ultimate, like ultra instinct. He just put out his hand and then he clawed the ball back. I was like, what did he just do?
When I saw the highlights, I thought to myself, I don't know if it was meant. It seemed like he there was a dummy sold to Modi in terms of, I'm going to go down this way, but straight out to the left, because that's where Modi went to his right, but then the ball was still clawed. So shout out to that, because if Chiefs score that, then judging by the balance of play and the quality, because Pirates would have been more pressed to do something, they would have lost a lot more balls, and I think Chiefs would have probably surprised in terms of getting that victory. Then Urele also missed an early chance as well. So there was quality lacking all around, Jay, in terms of what players can actually do. Modi will always be an issue. I know who's the midfielder with the dreadlocks. Not Sonny, not
George.
Yes. He had a couple of good touches, but you ask yourself, if ever there was a midfield that would come through together and then play, maybe there's something you can bring to the point. Because I can see a spark of brilliance in terms of if you had more of the ball in the right areas, you could do something. But because of how they were lined up and how they played on the day, but one thing I would say, Jay, energy and pressing of Kaizer Chiefs was very good. I think they weren't good as a side with the ball, but as disruptors, they played very, very well in terms of not getting Pirates the rhythm or space to play. So I think shout out to that. But all in all, Jay, was not the greatest of derbies. Obviously penalties, controversy, and all stuff like that. But stadium was packed. Everyone was anticipating. It just didn't live up to it in terms of the quality that you want to see. But in the final seconds of the game, the Panenka by Tito, because he lives for these things, right? Because he couldn't. There was no space for him to take it ball, because every time he tried to turn, there was someone on him. If it's not Ozwane, it's Ox, so he didn't have space to do anything. But he could show something in the end, and that penalty was cold as ice.
Great self-belief from Tito, and he strikes you as that guy, right? Because he missed a penalty, like in the previous game, I believe, and then to step up again, and then to do that, and also not just the self-belief, but like that is high football IQ to go for the Panenka, because the stadium is roaring, right? And you just had Uvuma, who was celebrating the save, and now it's a penalty, and like emotions and adrenaline is very high. You can see Vuma is already imagining himself in the back pages as the hero, and he's gonna go for a dive. Like if he's gonna be a hero, he's gonna go for the dive, and like you can see the picture, right? So you go for the Panenka, because there's no way he's just gonna stand there and like think that's what you're gonna do. Because as I'm saying,